Hello, everybody. I'm Don Counts. Welcome into Fayetteville Public Utilities, and we have our CEO, General Manager, with the update on what's going on around FPU. Britt, we have a lot going on, a lot of construction around town. Let's talk about some of the things that we talk about on the radio and social media every day. Update the customers on the current schedule of the projects around town.
Well, the big project going on is still the water. You know, we're replacing water in several different areas around the city. Working on Shelville Highway as of today and had to make a cross cut on Shelville Highway, so we'll be going out to Cross Hill Road on that line. Then we'll have to come back and hit North Main eventually here in probably about the next 3 or 4 weeks. Be hooking up services on North Lincoln to all those customers, get them hooked up on the new line, and then we're still pressurizing and testing the line from right there about where the Y is on the Mulberry Avenue out to the bypass on that 12-inch line. So we have a lot of replacements. We got the boring going on, College Street going up to the north corner of the square on North Main, so we'll be boring that as well. So we're just about maybe almost halfway there, but we're not halfway there yet. Just barely a little bit more and we'll be halfway up that hill. So it's all going well. Got a lot of hoses we got to get patched. So we're working on that, and other projects, we're extending our conductor on the south side of the county, and we're also extending gas lines on the south side of the county.
One thing that was a public relations issue we dealt with Mulberry Avenue, now that's looking a lot better, looks really good now.
Well, it's rides a lot better anyhow, you know, but what everybody's got to keep in mind, it's still just a patch. It's not a full paving job, it's a patch work. But it is 100% better than what we had to begin with. So I go out that way about every day, and rides pretty good to me.
Pretty good, yeah, that's pretty good. That come a long way. Let's talk about that water infrastructure upgrades. We've talked about where they are. Where are we going? What all is going to happen? I know it's a 3.5 year project, I think you said.
Well, the project actually brings in better flows, more pressure, getting rid of a lot of old infrastructure, getting that out of the way. So it's just going to bring on a whole different things to be prepared for the future, to provide better quality drinking water. And, you know, we're trying to build a resilient system that's going to be able to provide us for a long time.
I know the system held up very well, better than we could even possibly imagine on the square with the fire. I know those fire hydrants haven't been officially tested, but they were tested pretty strong at the fire on the square.
I don't think you could ask for a better test than it was. I mean, I hate that we had the fire, but, you know, everything was tested that day of the fire, that morning, and the system held up very, very well. You know, we was able to keep our tanks at least half full because if you get below a certain level, you have to go through the whole thing of boiling water. So we was able to man the plant and keep pumping water to provide enough water to fight the fire. And, you know, the firemen and all the people that came in from surrounding cities, they did a tremendous job. Lincoln County Volunteer Fire Department, they also, everybody contributed as a team, and that's what it takes when you have something like that to come together as a team and make it work.
And your team came in, and you had to have them there, and maybe you might explain what our role was.
Well, what we have to do is be sure. When I got the call, first thing I had to do is I had to call the water plant supervisor to come in and start manning the plant to be able to pump enough water. And then we had to de-energize the power lines around the south side of the square so it would be safe for the firemen to get in there and do their job. And we had to drop some lines so some of the fire trucks could get their ladder trucks or whatever, you know, up in the air. So we were totally out of the way to make all that happen. So we were just glad to be where we could help.
Our guys had to be in there close to the fire to get the lines away from there to where it would be safe to fight the fire. And so a lot of times you don't think about us having to be that close, but we get called to every fire and every wreck that has a utility pole involved.
Oh, yes, we do.
So let's talk a little bit about the fiber build that's starting in the city over at the Country Club and Twin Oaks. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we're trying to get the boring done, and I know that we're tearing up some yards, so we will be replacing that and put it back like it was. Just, again, you know, it's just one of those things that takes time. Just be patient with us until we get it done, and we'll come in, get your yards repaired, and get it taken care of.
After that gets done and the fiber gets put in, are we going to hook them up fairly quickly, or do you know?
Well, if the customers want to be hooked to fiber, if they got our service or whatever, once it all gets tied in again, it just takes time to make those ties with the fiber connections. So, we'll just have to see how it turns out of what we got at the time, because we're still looking at expanding more in the city, because that was our first part that we built back when we went into the business of offering cable TV.
All right, let's talk a little bit about something that's not on the notes here, but about Petersburg water. We've been talking about that for about a year. How close are we on that, and what step are we in now?
Well, we got meetings coming up this week to finalize some billing issues that we've had to make sure all the information is correct that we are receiving from Petersburg. But we hope by the end of April that we will be accepting readings and billing Petersburg.
Okay, that sounds good. I know there's a lot more to that than just flipping a switch and saying, here, you got it, because we had to put new meters in, I guess.
We put new meters in. The contractor put new meters in that was hired by Petersburg. And so we just wanted to oversee some of that to be sure everything was done correctly, and that it's got to be right. The first thing we can do is just send out something that's the wrong information to a new customer that we're billing on water. So we have to be sure that Petersburg, the information that we got is correct, and it's what it needs to be.
All right. Our linemen finally came home. We had some linemen that were gone for quite some time. We had 2 separate line crews to help out the power restoration in the winter storm Fern. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, we were able to send a crew up to the Franklin area to help out Middle Tennessee Electric. And then the other crew went to North Mississippi, to help with that. We had 10 men down there doing that work as well. And, there's questions about, who pays for all that? And, it's something, how you get questions like that when you're helping out people. And I just have a hard time understanding why you question when you try to help people in those situations, because, we've had it at least twice. We had to call in additional help. And, that's the least of my worries is how you're going to pay people. You got to get it done. And those men are dedicated, and they work 16 hours a day and all that, in those ice conditions. And, we build the co-op that we go to work for. They're the ones that pay and foot the bill. It's no cost to the FPU ratepayer. It's just that, that's what we do, and that's what we're going to continue to do, is help our neighbors.
Absolutely. We don't want anybody to be without power, because that is a terrible thing to even think about, especially as a cold morning as we had this morning. I can't even imagine. And, we also power and water and lights and even the internet today, we take that for granted, and when it's gone, and then you're concerned.
Well, all services are taken for granted, and, and I'm glad that we're able to provide that. And we have a very good service record of providing services. We hardly out. I know that we have outages, but, you can't help car wrecks, you can't help rotten trees, you can't help squirrels on the pole, all those kinds of things, because most of our outages are temporary in nature. And, we do the best that we can. Can we get better? Absolutely. And we get better every day.
Yeah, we have a good crew outside, and I appreciate that, and a good crew inside, keeping up with that through accounting and all of that. And like you were saying earlier, the Petersburg merge is a lot of accounting information to make sure the addresses are the same, even though Petersburg might not look at them the same. I mean, it's a really big deal, and I'm proud we have good people in here to take care of that, because one thing you demand is it to be right.
Well, it's got to be right, and like I said, I can't say enough about the employees. They all come together as a team, inside, outside. But, when you're working in adverse weather conditions, and, you don't need all this rumor stuff going around about worrying about, that's what Nashville went into, and then now you got all the politics involved, and It's turned into something that it shouldn't work, but it keeps your folks that's out there trying to get a good job and get the power back on, and that's one thing they don't need to deal with is politics.
Yeah, that's true. Politics wants to creep into everyday life everywhere, and I know it's just not a place for it.
No, we all got a job to do, and we're going to do it safe, and we're going to do it as fast as we can and make it happen.
Absolutely. Another thing that's running pretty heavy right now is natural gas. You might talk a little bit about that.
Well, natural gas, we are expanding in the south part of the county, down on south on Bellevue Road, down toward the state line on the old Huntsville Highway in that area. So we got that project started. It's going to be a good project. So, we pulled a lot of load on the natural gas with the cold temperatures, as well as on the electric side with the cold temperatures.
The complication behind that, I hear y'all talking about it, and I can't explain it, but you might explain where you have to kind of predict what you're going to use, so you buy up storage, and it's just over my head.
Yeah, what we do, we try to buy a strip of gas at a lower rate, in cases like we needed to call on that storage with all the load and demand that was needed by the natural gas supply. So it's just a very volatile market. And, you have to run the numbers all the time for each month of how you're going to be on your gas rates to be sure that you got everything covered.
When you talk about a volatile market, it's kind of on the stock market. Is that correct? Something
Yes.
like that. And then you'll have to watch that. That's a lot to do. Anyway, Natural Gas Utility Workers Day is coming up on March 18th as we honor employees who provide safe, dependable natural gas to this community. And we're very fortunate to have natural gas here, and I believe we have 2 delivery points.
Yes, you got one in Ardmore and one at Cecil Johnson.
Okay, so that's good to have a backup there. I know you're a big stickler on that. Let's talk about how many delivery points from TVA we have of electricity.
Yet 4 delivery points, and we are discussing possibly 1 more, up to 2 more, maybe.
Wow.
So,
Well, you know where those would be?
I do, but I can't comment on it a lot right now, even though it's public information. I can tell you, one of them's on 64 Highway East, and the other one's down south of Lincoln County. So
That's
about all I know right now, because we got to get some property somewhere.
I was trying to trick you, and I was hoping I
You
had
did
some
trick
property
me,
in
though.
that area. Oh, me. Anyway, spring is just around the corner, hopefully, because, man, it was cold this morning. How cold was it when you got up?
24 degrees up in my hollow.
24. Okay, I figure it's colder than that up there in your area, especially the time you get up. But anyway, we have a lot of things we're planning on. People, we need to think about being real careful about digging this time of year. We definitely have a lot of people dig into stuff. There's out of sight, out of mind for sure underground.
Yeah, everybody needs to call 811 before you stick anything in the ground, because you're not knowing what's there. It could cost you.
Yep, the Tennessee 811 number. Call that 3 days prior to any digging. Even installing a mailbox or putting up a fence. We've definitely seen people dig into stuff, putting up a fence, or any to have any underground utilities marked. And we have employees here that I guess get those tickets and go out and do that, right?
Yeah, do the locates.
Yeah. Our tree trimming crews work hard to remove vegetation. I know you just mentioned Nashville. Tree trimming is a huge deal. Has been a public relations issue over the years, but now people, I'm thinking, might be a little more eye-opening to cutting your trees.
Well, you never know how bad it can get until those kinds of things happen. And, we can talk about Nashville all day long. I mean, everybody works differently. Each co-op, each municipal, all work entirely different. But, tree trimming is something that needs to happen. Our right-of-ways need to become wider. And even though, if you have a 3/4 inch ice storm or an inch ice storm, all the trees can be out of the way, but the weight of that ice on that conductor and breaking poles, it's very devastating, and that's what happened. I think Nashville ended up somewhere around 800 poles broke. Systems to our west over here ended up with several hundreds of poles broke. Where they went to work in Mississippi, everywhere they went, there were poles broke. So it's not only trees, it's ice built up on the conductors, plus when you got that kind of ice and it's on the roads, it takes you time to get there to get the lights turned back on.
In all fairness to all those people, I know we try to prepare, but you can't prepare for something like that.
You can only do the best you can do with what you got, and just hope and pray that nobody gets hurt and gets everything back up and running safely and as soon as possible.
Absolutely. One thing that you deal with on a regular basis is solar and generator installations. There are ways to do that, and the ways to do it is to protect the linemen.
It is protect linemen and, the public, because anybody can walk up and with a backfeed, and especially if you got a line laying on the ground, if it's backfeeding through that transformer, you got a live line there, and you might not see that it's live or anything because, you can't smell it. And the only way you're going to know if it's hot is if you touch it and you don't have your PPE on, so it could come a fatality quick.
Yeah, all solar equipment and generators must be inspected by a state-certified inspector, and FPU must be notified prior to any installation on that. So call us at 433-1522, and we'll get you to somebody so we can make sure that's done correctly. Britt, we talk about this on the radio every day. We talked about it yesterday. We talked about it on the paper about people need to move over and slow down in work zones, and you've got work zones virtually all over the county.
We do, and it's just amazing. These tractor trailer trucks, they don't slow down. And the other day we was working up on Mulberry Avenue, just for an example, and we had the signs up, and we had people out doing traffic control because they got to meet the state standards of how you have to do that. And we had 5 big tractor trailer trucks, one right behind the other, come down Mulberry Avenue. And there wasn't. It's 30 mile an hour through there anyway, but, when you're doing 40, 45 mile an hour in them big trucks like that, and they're not paying attention, which they run over our signs, we got our cones run over, but we've had people in cars and trucks do the same thing. So,
yeah. Well, it is a bad situation, and we really ask people to please slow down, move over. If anything's on the side of the road, please move over, because you never know what's going to happen if they're fixing a flat, or if they're having car trouble, or if they're working. And we see all kind of people working. And we talk about linemen, but you have cable people out working on the side of the road, and a lot of other people, including your water people.
Yeah, exactly. Water, sewer, gas, they all at any time can be working in the road. We have the signage and the cones, and vests are on, and so. It's like I say, if it's good, it's good, but if it's bad, it's bad.
That's right. And you've seen it where it's both ways. You've seen it bad. Youth Leadership's coming up. Youth Leadership Summit is coming up. Let me clarify that. And it's Lincoln County High School student Ben Reeves and RCA student Lily Terrell will be they're the ones that's selected to go to Youth Leadership Summit in Nashville this March. And the trip encourages students to be leaders in their hometowns. Britt, I know that's important to you, and we've been doing this for a long time. This is a very good program, and you do a lot to try to stay in touch with all 3 of the school systems.
We do, and it's these students these days, some of them are college bound, some are not, and some go to technical schools, and a lot of those jobs, that's what it requires. So, we hope maybe they stay in Fayetteville and go to work and have a good career here.
And you're also working, not on the notes here, but with TCAT. You've been doing that. Let's say, I'm not sure what that stands for, but it's a technical school that's going to be here in town.
It is.
You're working with them.
We're working with them, and they're talking about CDL driving. They're talking about apprenticeship training, and FPU is willing to work with them any way that we can to have students educated and come in here and do that kind of work.
We're always looking for employees. Seems like you can go to our website to see what jobs are available. A lot of these jobs require some on the job training, but some you've got to learn on your own to get to it. And we've got some really good jobs here.
Yeah, a lot of them require additional training. You got to get certifications through the state, and it's pretty tough. When all these tests come back out, because they change all the time. I believe they're getting harder all the time that we take these tests, and to be an operator, certified operator, which that's what we require. You have to pass all the exams to get there.
Yeah. Well, it's very important to get good people. So if you want to stay at home, this is a good place to work, and you just keep your eye out on our website to see what jobs are available. And like we work with the Student Utility Board. We've got a very good Student Utility Board this year, and we've been blessed to have retained some of those Student Utility Board. In fact, you've picked one up part-time, doing some work already, and so many people seem to be interested. These young people maybe staying home now.
Well, they just don't know, what exists in jobs that are here that's got good opportunities, to keep them here in Lincoln County. And the one we got part-time now is actually getting to experience a lot in our substation department. We moved our switch house in at Brogan Avenue up there that we're going to upgrade all the relays and all that kind of stuff, having better service out of those circuits that come out of that substation. And, we'll be having some pictures of what the old looked like compared to what the new is. And, it's just the demand is more of how you operate your system, because it's got to be smarter.
Yeah. Well, this young man here, he's really going to see a lot up close and personal, instead of somebody like me who's seeing it from a distance. But one thing about it is, let's go back and punt and talk about the building that coming in. We saw it move. Explain why you had to buy a building like this to get into a substation and why it had to be moved and those kind of things.
Well, it's a prefab building, and inside a prefab building, you got all your relays in there. You got your batteries, you got your tripping, synchronizing equipment in there. And, when you get ready to do that, everything in a substation trips on DC. You don't have to have AC because, if you lose all your AC power, which if you got an outage, you don't have any AC power. So you got to be sure that you got the right voltage and backup on the DC, because the DC power is what trips your substations for faults and alarms and any type of equipment failure. You got to have a DC power. So it's very, very important that you got that. Some of our systems at 48 volt DC, some of them are at 120 volt DC.
So DC meaning you're talking about batteries in there? Is that what you're talking about?
Direct current.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the building itself. This building is extremely heavy, and it came into one substation and had to be moved by this some kind of special carrier that to move it because it was extremely heavy.
Yes, the building itself was over 75,000 pounds. The dolly that they put it on, it had 32 wheels on it to get it up the bypass into the substation, is over another 30 to 40,000 pounds. So there was a lot of weight we had going into the substation. And then you had to have a big crane to pick it all up to move it onto the pad. So it was, I think we had like 12 or 13 tractor trailer trucks in here that had each one of those weights that the tractor trailer truck could carry only one weight because they was like 60 or 70,000 pounds, something like that. So we had a slew of trucks in here. It's a big job. We got it set. And now all we have to do is get everything wired up, and then we'll start changing out some breakers, reclosers, that all goes in new as well. So it'll be good for a long time.
Well, if you're interested in that, you can go on our YouTube channel, FPU YouTube channel, and watch some of that move. I don't think the video does it justice to the massive and also the weight. You can't tell by just looking at how heavy it is, but they had a big crew of people, and you had all your people there trying to make sure that it was done safely, because this was could be a dangerous situation.
It was, and we were able to, the redundancy we got on the system is switch a lot of different lines out to be sure that we had it all safe and de-energized at the time that we set the building. But it goes to show you, if you watch the video, you can see this guy walking out beside the building, and it's all remote control. So, I know these kids these days, they love this remote control stuff. So you're sitting there guiding this 75,000 pound switch house, walking beside it with remote control.
With a remote, yeah. It was a non-cabbed vehicle, and so you had to have something to do it. That was pretty amazing. And then you had to make sure power lines were moved out of the way because this was tall and or moved or lifted or whatever. Not that, just cable lines as well. So it was a pretty big operation, and I know you're proud that thing is finally set. Now your substation crews will now be wiring it up. How long do you think that'll take?
I'll say probably about a month and a half that we got to get everything wired in. We have to get it all tested to be sure all the tripping is set right. And, when you start going in there and putting all the minimum trips, I call them minimum trips, maximum trips of, when the loading gets on the line, you got to be sure it's going to trip if you got a fault. But at the same time, you got to be sure the settings are correct to carry the load as well. So especially if you got an unbalanced situation or if the system's balanced, everything's got to sync together and the grid's got to be balanced.
The complications of that is, again, way over my head, but you've actually built substations, and I guess you start out with some sort of a blueprint that of the kind of loads you're going to be needing, and then you build it from there. Is that correct?
That's correct. You just go from the ground up. You have to start with your ground grid because everything's got to be grounded properly to make everything work, and because your grounding is very, very important. If something's not right, and, you get somebody killed in there if you go doing some switching and it comes down the steel, it's got to feed off on the grounds and faults. But there's a lot to building a substation. I was glad that I had the opportunity to be able to do that when I left the line crew of doing line work. So very, very important, and of how you get all that installed and wired up.
We saw some of your writings in the old building from 1970. Was it 77,
Yeah,
78?
late 70s, early 80s,
Yep.
mid 80s. So,
And I think you told me that there's about as much wire underground as there is above ground, which there again you can't imagine all that.
that is correct. You know, it's like you say. You know, it's out of sight, it's out of mind. People don't think about it, but you know, there's a lot of involved work that goes on.
One thing that as we talk about that, the aging infrastructure of the electric grid, you can kind of see that in substations. Some of that stuff's been in there before your time.
Oh yeah, and you know, you're talking about the 40s. You know, we got transformers in substations now. It's the 60s and late 40s, and
Wow.
insulators that's older than that. So you know, it just takes time to get all that changed out in the proper amount of time. But you know, with everything happening during the ice storm Fern, there's going to be changes. It's going to be demanding on the electric systems as a whole, because they want more. You know, people give trouble when you try to trim trees. Well, you know, they're going to come out with legislation that's going to change all that.
Yeah, that's coming for sure. Washington Youth Tour short story writing contest is coming up. The Washington Youth Tour contest, our presentations are being made at all 3 high schools. Britt, we've been doing this for a long time, and we've had a lot of people go over the years, and somebody might be watching that's been on the trip. But it's a good opportunity for juniors in the FPU service area, and 3 students will win an all-expense-paid trip to Washington, D.C. And if you have any questions about the writing contest, you can give us a call, and we help you out with that. I know that's something you're proud to be associated with. FPU, we want people to stay connected to us, and there's all kinds of ways now, Britt. We've got a customer service email address now that you can contact us through, customerservice@fpu-tn.com, or you can always call us. That's the old way of doing it. But we also have Smart Hub and so many things. Our social media, people feel free to check us out. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And Britt, you keep up with LinkedIn, and that's a new one that we're kind of trying to do more about. A lot of people on there as well.
I do, and you know, it's the post on social media. Only thing I would ask, you know, if you got a complaint or want to fuss about something, then you know, contact FPU first before you put it out there on social media, because we don't know nothing about it until we read it. Which I'm not going to read it because I don't do Facebook.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
You know, but there's plenty of people that do. But if you got a complaint, call us, come by and see us, and because the ones you communicating with on Facebook, they're just going to complain with you. So
that's true. They're going to jump on the bandwagon. A lot of people love that. But, you know, one thing, too, is if your internet's out, you know, maybe going to Facebook's probably not the right thing, because a lot of times when you think your internet's out, you may just have lost connection with maybe Netflix or YouTube or something like that. But you can call in here, and we have people here 24 hours a day, and they can tell you real quick if you're online. And so even though you might think you're not. So I would at least call here first for sure.
Right. You know, you got so many other people that do services in Lincoln County, and you know, one of the biggest ones that we get, especially, is, you know, if somebody comes by and cuts trees, if it's FPU, we try to knock on the door, talk to the customer, let you know we're going to be in the area working. But then, you know, when you get all this hit up on social media and it's all bad, and it wasn't even FPU, it was somebody else that was out there cutting the trees, and you know, just make note of that. Find out who it is. If you want to bash somebody, be sure it's correct information.
And we actually go door to door. This is something he requires to make sure that you're aware, and maybe you're not home or maybe whatever, but we're going to put a door hanger to let you know what we're doing in your area. And if you have any questions at that point, you can give us a call. So there's really no excuse they don't know unless they're just not home at all.
That's correct. And you know, if we mess up something, if we've done the work, or if it's not to your satisfaction, we're going to make it right.
Yep.
So you give us a chance first, because
right.
What you say out there is too late to take it back.
That's true. And most people don't take it back after they said it.
That's right.
All right. We could wear that out all day. But anyway, we appreciate what you do. We appreciate you talking to us every month to let us know what's going on. You've got a board meeting coming up, and you got to get prepared for that. And it's good you've got a good board to back us on what the projects we're working on.
Yes, the board understands the direction that we need to move, and you know, they just justify what needs to be done and do the right thing, because you don't want to come back and get it hung over your head because you didn't do the right thing. And I'm not one of those people that's not going to try to do the right thing. We're going to work as hard as we can, the best that we can, as safe as we can, to provide service to all of our customers.
And he definitely tries to keep everybody aware of what's going on. I know you send out emails virtually every day to let people know the powers that be and your board and people who need to know. We have a very good relationship with Kim Albright with Elk River Media and Laura Scripps with Elk Valley Times. So we're in communication with them every day, and we appreciate their support for us as well.
Yeah, what Kim does is a good job. Lori does a good job. We also talk with Miss Wanda and everything. She does a good job as well. And, sometimes we get on the Huntsville news stations at times to talk, and they let people know what's going on with FPU at times. But, we try to be as transparent as we can be. But if anytime you got questions, complaints, or concerns, call our office, and I'm sure that we'll get you an answer.
433-1522. Thank you very much, Britt.
Thank you.
Appreciate you watching here on Fayetteville Public Utilities, and we'll see you back here next month for another update from our CEO.